Welcome back to the podcast, Mixed Media. This is the third section where I'll be talking about not Black Widow. We talked about that in the past two sections. I'll be talking about the new console that'll be coming out relatively soon called the Steam Deck. My topic is fairly short because there's not much that's known about it currently. But let me give you the overview first. So yesterday, the Steam Deck was announced, created by the company who owns the Steam store, Valve. It's not the first console. They also released another console. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was in partnership with Alienware. And they also have the Valve Index, which is a VR headset, which is fairly popular. But the whatever they did with Alienware, I don't think that ever went anywhere. But this console is a handheld console, unlike the Xbox or PlayStation. It's like a Switch type thing. So yeah, as announced yesterday, you can reserve an order today, starting today, I believe. What that means essentially is that you can sign up, you put in your email, whatever. You have to pay to reserve, which is interesting. And what that does is when they have the inventory, they'll email you, and then you can buy it. So yeah, I wonder if they're doing this as a sort of anti-scalper thing, because that was happening a lot with PlayStations, and that was a problem. So you make everyone pay you make them pay before, to reserve, so that I guess it's an added fee for people who are buying in bulk. I'm not really sure why I have to do it now instead of later, but whatever. So that's happening. Let's get into what makes it interesting. So first, if you look at it, I should have sent you a picture. Oh, it's a picture on screen. Never mind.
Yeah, it's there.
If you look at the layout, it's very unique. So you have a 7-inch screen. It's touchscreen on the middle of it, big thing. All right. You have stereo microphones, stereo speakers. You have a standard right thumbstick, standard left thumbstick, and a sort of PlayStation controller format where they're towards the top of it. You have your ABXY buttons like you see on an Xbox, and instead of them being below the right stick, they're to the right of the right stick, which is interesting. And on the left side, you have a D-pad, which is to the left of the thumbstick, where on an Xbox it'd be above, and on a PlayStation controller it'd be below. The reason why they did this, they put it to the side instead of stacking them vertically, is because there is another interface for you to interact with your games. They have two trackpads, one on the left, one on the right. These look like they're sort of where on an Xbox controller the left stick would be, like that sort of height. It's like in the middle of it, pretty much. You have two trackpads, and aside from that, there are a couple extra buttons. You have a menu button, a view button. I'm not really sure what that does. A Steam button, which I believe will just bring you to the Steam store, or maybe the Steam library, and a quick access button, which I also don't know what that does yet. You also have a standard right trigger bumper setup on both sides. There are volume buttons in the front, a headphone jack, a USB Type-C port for charging. I'm not sure if there's anything else you can plug into it, but as far as I know, I'm not sure if you can plug in a monitor to it. I'm not sure if that'd work, but at least for charging, USB Type-C. There's a fan grate in the front, which is interesting, because I don't know if the Nintendo Switch has a fan. I'm not sure. I feel like it would get quite hot, right? But it's also a very low-powered device. It's not very beefy at all. And it has a power button, yes. And additionally, to add to its uniqueness, on the bottom of it, sort of where you put your middle finger and ring finger, there are two extra buttons on the bottom. Well, four. There's two on each side. To totally max out the amount of buttons that you can have on this thing. So yeah, I think as far as the button layout goes, I think it makes a lot of sense for what they're doing. They have a lot of buttons because I'll get to it later, but why this is, but compared to the Switch, you'll be finding people playing a lot more MOBAs and MMORPGs, where the amount of buttons you have to press are usually pretty large. So having just a D-pad and just ABXY and bumpers is going to be a bit of a problem for that. So having all those extra buttons would prove to be useful in that scenario. And the trackpad, I think, is I have my suspicion as to why that's a thing. I'll also get to that later. But Because from that suspicion, it can also be used as a replacement for potentially like a D-pad, because I can imagine a programmer just making it so that you tap a certain part of the trackpad and it acts like any other button instead of having to like use a trackpad as you would on a laptop where you know use it as like a cursor to move your cursor around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's inside of it? What kind of specs are we talking about here? It's a custom AMD CPU that has an integrated GPU inside of it. Uses Zen 2 architecture, 4 cores, 8 threads, running at 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz, and it uses RDNA 2 graphics, integrated graphics, with 2 compute units running at 1 to 1.6 gigahertz, that's pretty like good actually, right?
For a GPU, right? I don't know where we are now in terms of...
Yes, I'm thinking, huh? Because I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's pretty slow, but I'm thinking no. But I'm thinking about CPUs. CPUs are like way higher, 2 to 3 range in gigahertz. I'm not really sure where GPUs tend to lie, but I think it's pretty good. The crazy part is that this CPU runs at 4 to 15 watts, which is not a lot of power at all. For reference, some light bulbs run at 100 watts. Now, a CPU is a lot more energy efficient than you might think it is. It's a pretty small device that doesn't need that much power to run. The fact that it's smaller means that it actually needs less power for reasons I don't know, big brain enough to understand. But yeah, that is that. That's why it consumes a little power. But even for like laptop standards and stuff like that, that is a ridiculously low amount of power. So that's a pretty beastly CPU that AMD was able to whip up for this. As for RAM, 16 gigabytes of RAM, which I thought was like pretty crazy for such a small form factor.
Yeah,
that is not a normal thing for like a laptop with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, you'll find them, but they're definitely not the norm currently. Like 8 gigabytes for a laptop is probably the norm. A laptop is decently bigger than this thing. So yeah, running at 5.5. What is it? MT per second. What is that? It's not written in hertz. It's not written in hertz. It's 5,500 MT per second. Pega something?
Never heard of it.
What? Or isn't it always like measured in hertz?
I thought so.
or megahertz probably.
If you're watching in post, hello. You should come live Fridays, 7 p.m. here on Mixed Media Eastern. All right, go back. You can go
ahead. MT per second, in case you're wondering, is mega transfers per second.
I've never heard of that.
Mega transfer. So I assume one transfer is equal to 1 hertz. That's what a hertz means anyways.
It's a measurement of bus and channel speed in millions of effective cycles per second.
Cycles per second. So that's going to be hertz anyways, right?
Yeah. So it's a rating of the actual delivered speed rather than the frequency of the clock.
Oh, so they're not the same. Hertz would be just the frequency of the clock speed of the RAM.
That's interesting. That's an interesting metric. It's like it accounts for some like loss of efficiency, I assume. Like in the clocks.
So I guess we can say
measure of effective transfers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we can say if this is 5.5 giga transfers per second, then if you want to because normally if you want to go and buy RAM, it's going to tell you it in hertz. So I guess if you want to compare, you just add it's just greater than that, greater than that in terms of gigahertz. So yeah, in terms of storage, there are 3 different Steam Deck models. So the base one is 64 gigabytes of eMMC memory, and there's the second tier is 256 gigabytes of NVMe SSD, and the last tier is 512 gigabytes of higher speed NVMe SSD. It just says high speed. I don't know how it doesn't say a read or write speed, but or transfer speed. But yeah. All the models, however, will include a micro SD card slot to add to however much storage you want to. So yeah. I'm just noticing actually. I didn't notice this the first time I read this little page of specs, but it says that the console has 4 assignable. Oh, I thought it said adjustable. Never mind. 4 assignable grip buttons. My bad. I thought it said adjustable. I was like, what does that mean? But yeah. The console has haptic feedback, and the resolution is 1280 by 800, which is a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. Not sure why I didn't go with 16 by 9, but I guess maybe it's just yeah, it probably makes sense for something you hold. It makes sense for it to be longer than it is tall. And the
What?
screen refresh rate is.
I was gonna say this thing sounds like it probably is fairly expensive.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. And it runs at 60 hertz, the refresh rate of the screen. Um, and yeah, I think that it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth. I believe that's really all there is to. Oh, it has a 40 watt hour battery, which is 2 to 8 hours of gameplay. Uh, and weighs 669 grams. I don't know what that is in pounds. I have no clue. But nah, I don't know if it's heavy or light. So those are the specs. Oh, and most importantly, perhaps, well, not most importantly, but one of the most important things is it doesn't run on any custom console OS. It runs, well, technically does. It runs on Steam OS, which is just a version of Linux. It's
Oh.
yeah. It's
Wait, so can you plug this thing into a monitor potentially and then game on that? Whoa. That's pretty cool.
Not, well, the Switch can do that too.
True.
And we'll get to like how it, I'll get to the comparison between Switch and this, but yeah.
But can you use it? Well,
I'll stop it. 1.47 pounds.
For what?
1.475 pounds.
Oh, that's pretty okay. That's not bad. Pretty good. For a computer, that's pretty good. Yeah, SteamOS. Yeah, it's a new version of SteamOS. SteamOS has actually been a thing they used in the old consoles talking about before that didn't go very well. But now it's on SteamOS 3.0. I'm not sure what the difference is. And if you're wondering, the desktop environment is KDE Plasma, which I don't think really matters because I don't think you can see the desktop. I think SteamOS like hides it. Like I think it's like essentially a Steam desktop.
Wait. Well, that's like that would be a huge benefit if I could just
I think you can. I think you're just not like, it's not normal to like, it's not a computer, or it is a computer. It's not like a normal working machine that you would use for like everyday tasks. You know what I'm saying? Like
I get that, but like I mean, the option to like I don't know, like type an email on it would be pretty cool.
Well, it is Linux, so you can probably literally do anything you want with it. I'm sure people are going to figure out how to literally like. I mean, you can download your own OS on it, probably if you want to.
I see.
And yeah, now like the Nintendo Switch, there's also a dock. This is how you connect to a external monitor or a TV screen. It supports up to, I believe it's 8K or something like that. And whether it can run 8K is 8K at 60 hertz. Not that it can run that anyways, but that's a possibility. The dock on it has many ports. So it has an Ethernet port. So it's not just for it's like a USB hub. It's not just for using external displays. It has other functionalities. So it has two USB 2.0s. You can use to plug in like a mouse and a keyboard, for example, and you can use that if you wanted to. It has a display port and an HDMI 2.0, which are both things that you can use for connecting to a TV. It has a USB Type-C, which you can just use to, if you want to charge it through because if it's connected to the dock, then you have to plug into the dock if you want to charge it instead of plugging directly into the console itself. It has an Ethernet port, as I said before, and also has an extra USB 3.1 rather, for whatever high-speed transfers you may want. So, yeah. And the dock weighs 120 grams, if that matters. I don't think it really does, because you just put it somewhere, right?
Yeah, I don't think that matters.
So let's talk about some comparisons between the Switch and the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck is directly the competitor of the Switch. This is not competing for the same audience as like the Xbox or the PlayStation or a gaming PC. They're both like portable devices that powerful enough to like not be a phone essentially, with a bigger screen and more ergonomic. So my first impression was that the Steam Deck doesn't seem as much of a party device as the Nintendo Switch. So with the Switch, the dock is a big feature of it, right? The dock lets you connect to a TV, and from there you can play split screen with whoever. And as well, you also have the detachable Joy-Cons controllers that let you play with two people, which I think is pretty cool and pretty innovative. The Steam Dock does not have that. You cannot detach the controllers, and the dock is not available. And actually, it doesn't come with any model. The dock you have to buy separately for an unknown price. They said they'll have more information on it later. So people who are gonna like reserve, they don't even know like what it costs to get the dock.
No.
See, I think it just shows that they're not trying to make this like the party device. It's more of a
Is this
solo
like
device.
This is like a PSP
That's what I was thinking.
revival almost basically.
It definitely has party capabilities because you can buy the dock, but at least the standard model, none of the models will come with that. This is contrary to the Switch, where they have three models. So the Switch has they used to have two. They just added the third one. They have the Nintendo Switch Lite. They have the standard Nintendo Switch, and they have the Nintendo Switch OLED model, which is just the standard Nintendo Switch with an OLED screen. And the only one that doesn't have the dock is the Nintendo Switch Lite. As well, there's also this thing called tabletop mode that you can do on all the Switches except the Lite, where it's like a stand, right? The Switch has a stand built into it, so you can just put it on a table, and then it's a lot better to play party games like that with multiple people when it's on a table rather than in one person's hands. That's kind of awkward, especially if you're trying to hold a separate controller. How are you gonna hold the screen? So that being said, you can definitely play party games on the Steam Deck because it has Bluetooth, and that would work with the. Oddly enough, I don't think there's a Steam controller that's out there. I don't think it has Bluetooth, which is interesting.
Oh,
it seems like maybe they'll make some for Bluetooth just for this. But yeah, if you have Bluetooth controllers, then
can you connect this to
the Valve Index?
Yeah. That seems to be an L if they can't. If you can't,
it's just a computer, right? It's Linux. You should be able to, right?
I don't know.
I would assume so. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't know if it would perform well. I don't think it would, but I wouldn't trust the performance. So yeah. Then you also have the difference in the library. So on one hand, you have the whole Steam library. On the other hand, you have the Nintendo Store, or whatever it's called, right? Nintendo Store is, at this point, I would guess, probably a few hundred games strong. And probably on average has like higher quality games than the Steam library. Now, that's not to say that there aren't, like, when I say that, I really just mean because there's a lot of trash that's on the Steam Store. That's all I'm saying. The Steam Store definitely has many thousands, probably tens of thousands of games, because it's not nearly as hard to get your game on the Steam Store as it is on the Nintendo Store, and it's also a lot easier to develop for Steam because it's just the generic PC platform, and it's like big audience. Whereas not as many people are going to develop for a Switch because you need to have one to develop for it, to test it and stuff like that. And you're also giving yourself a smaller audience to play with, and you have constraints like you're gonna have big hardware constraints because it's not as powerful as many people's computers. I guess it depends what kind of games you like, right? The Switch store has a different vibe than like the Steam store. Of course, you also get all the Nintendo exclusives on the Steam store. So or on the Switch store, so if you're or Nintendo store, they call it. If you're a big Nintendo fan, I guess that would be a worthwhile investment. So as for the price comparison, the three models of the Nintendo Switch are all cheaper than the base model of the Steam Deck. So at the lowest MSRP for the Nintendo Switch Lite, it's $200, and it's selling at MSRP, so that's accurate, $200. Then the standard Nintendo Switch is $300, and the OLED version is $350. If I recall correctly, I think they also added a Ethernet port to the OLED model as well, so it's not exactly the same besides OLED screen. So as for the price of the Steam Deck, the 64 gigabyte version, which just comes with a carrying case, is $400. So it's already $50 more expensive than the most expensive version of the Switch.
64 gigabytes these days for a game is literally nothing. Like you can't.
Yeah, it's not a. Yeah, this is like also so. Let me check. What's the Switch?
You couldn't fit Call of Duty on there. Like you literally could not play it.
That being said, it's like not that many games that are like massive. Those games tend to be AAA games. And I have a feeling this is not a AAA game machine for that reason, and just the fact that the hardware might not be able to run it very easily.
But at that point, I feel like it's an F though, because then you limit the amount of people who would even care about this thing. Like, because now it's not a party thing, and it's also not a AAA machine. Then your audience is like hardcore indie players. That's very specific. I don't know.
This is true. Yeah, I just found that the base Switch model is 32 gigabytes. Yikes. Okay.
Well, that works for them because their games are probably very tiny. Because
they also use a fancy compression algorithm to get things to be nice and small on their storage. And if you're wondering how the spec comparison goes between the Switch only has 4 gigabytes of RAM at 1.6 gigahertz. It uses an NVIDIA CPU, which makes you think it's absolute doo-doo. So yeah, uses an NVIDIA GPU as well, which is probably all right. I think it has like I think the GPU has like or the CPU rather has like some insane amount of cores. It's like a lot. I don't know why. It seems the opposite. I think it's 8. Yeah, 8 cores at 1.02 gigahertz. So very slow, but a lot of them. Storage pretty small, I guess. I think this is just not. Someone raised this concern before, and that's the conclusion I came to. It's just not a AAA game machine. It's probably like smaller titles. The second tier, I don't know what they're considering standard. I don't know if it's like the cheapest is standard or this is standard. But this $530 model is 256 gigabytes. Comes with a carrying case as well, and you also get an exclusive Steam Community Profile bundle. I don't know what it is, but that's what it says. I don't think it actually has details on it, which is very strange. And then the most expensive, the 650, comes with a premium anti-glare etched glass, an exclusive carrying case, exclusive Steam Community Profile bundle, and an exclusive virtual keyboard theme. I still don't know why they couldn't give you a dock with it, but yeah. So between these models, really the only thing that like of substance is like the storage, right? You get faster storage with each tier, and the storage quadruples on the first tier and then doubles on the second tier. Oh, does it quadruple? Yeah, that's math. Yeah, quadruples on the first tier, doubles on the second tier. The price difference between them for the storage you get is like really expensive per gigabyte. So you gain some approximately 200 gigabytes, like 190 gigabytes approximately from the first tier, and you end up paying, let's see, math. You end up paying about $130 extra for that.
Did you say you could connect SD cards to it?
Yes, you can. All versions you can put a micro SD card in it, but the problem is micro SD cards are kind of slow.
You can buy actually like extremely fast ones, but they're going to cost you a lot of money. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I think as for what I think about it, I think you should not buy it now. You should see how it goes. One thing to mention is that you will not have the entire Steam library at your disposal actually, because it runs off Linux, and so a lot of games aren't actually supported on Linux. Yikes.
Valve does own Proton. Proton is a compatibility layer that allows you to run games that are only made for Windows on any Linux platform. So obviously it makes sense why they're doing that is so that they can have this. Although I think that is even before Steam ever had a console. But I could be wrong about that. Proton actually works pretty well. So for example, Rocket League is not officially supported by Psyonix anymore. They used this word, they dropped it, and not too long after, I don't know if you can use Proton on it. I'm not sure if that works, but not too long after, there's like also other means. Someone already made a way to play it on Linux. There's something called Lutris, which is essentially a sort of like community-driven thing where you can submit, I guess, like, I don't even know what you call them, like modifications to the game that will run on Linux. And so you can run like a lot of games like that that'll work. Sometimes they're a bit buggy, like some things like just don't work on them. But for a lot of them, they actually do work, and they work pretty well. Interesting that on their like little like you can see actually on the image we have on the podcast, the games that they show on the screen are Control, Doom, and Hades, and I think Ghost Runner as well, I think, is the thing on this side. Also, Control is a fairly like intensive game. It can be, at least on the higher settings. So yeah, I think it's interesting that they're showing that off. Doom and Hades, on the other hand, are not, so that makes a lot of sense. Big titles that don't require a lot of power to run, so you won't be like upset that you can't run it, because you most certainly will be able to, probably. And the shipments will start in December of 2021. So
Christmas season.
oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's definitely intentional.
I guarantee you the
pre-order it now. I say it's a pre-order now though, so
exactly. I was gonna say I guarantee there's gonna be a Black Friday like pre-order sale or something like that, like
probably, so
you can pay for it before it has a terrible launch. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sold on the concept just because like I just don't get the market it's going after. Because like if I'm gonna be mobile, I'm gonna kind of want to like. If I'm going to be mobile and not have a Switch and spend that much money, I'm going to want like something that I can play COD on low settings at least. So maybe you can play COD on low settings.
Oh, you might be able to because I believe the is it Ryzen 5? Ryzen 5 maybe 3200G can play COD at decent settings, not even low settings. That's as integrated graphics. That being said,
there you go.
And then that cost that CPU, well, at least when it came out, costed $99. I'm not sure what it costs now with like, CPU problems and whatnot, and it's probably not even manufactured anymore. But I'm not sure how that compares to this particular the integrated graphics in this, because it's like it's tricky because it's a custom one, right? So you can't just look it up and be like, oh, how is this? Let me see the benchmarks on this GPU, because there are no benchmarks because it hasn't come out yet, because it's the only one because it's custom. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and you can also use there are some other I forgot some other plus sides to this. One, you get cloud save. So a lot of games support cloud saving, where essentially if you're on Steam, your save files will save to the Steam cloud, and then you can use that from anywhere as long as you log into your Steam account. And also Steam Link, where you can essentially stream your games from one of your own computers to another one. So you can stream from, say, a beefy gaming PC you have to your Steam deck, which the latency is a problem. If they're both plugged into Ethernet, it's actually maybe pretty okay. If you're in the same house, it'll probably actually be pretty decent too. I can see someone being like, I just want to play like, I don't know, something dumb, right? I just want to sit on my couch or whatever. I don't want to be in this chair. Yeah, maybe I'm like watching like a show in the background or something like that. And I'll just stream my computer to play it or something.
Interesting.
Oh, I forgot to say, sorry, I keep forgetting things. The track, I never mentioned why I thought the trackpad would be more useful besides the D-pad thing. I think it's because it's useful to have some way of emulating a cursor, because a lot of games expect you to have a cursor because it's going to just run PC games. So yeah.
Yeah. I assume there's going to be at least one or two indie makers who are going to make a game specifically for this platform or something like that. It'd be cool to see. Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you so much for stopping by on the Mixed Media Podcast. If you're listening to the audio only on whatever podcasting platform you're at, one thing that we really want is we want to get people together, because we're all on so many different platforms. We're on Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, I don't know, Google Podcasts, Spotify, literally anywhere you can possibly think of. And so we want us all to be together. So in the description of wherever you are, literally wherever you are, there's a link to our Discord. In that Discord, we chat about, the goings-ons of the week, our hot thoughts, our hot takes on random topics here and there, and you can continue the discussion that we're having here live on that Discord server. We'd love to have you there. The first however many people who will get on that Discord server will get a title, a role, that will signify that you were here first, before the crowd. And also, we would just love to hear your thoughts on this podcast, in general. What can we do better for you guys to be happier? And we've got a lot of new people come in recently, especially on YouTube. And I just want to say welcome to Mixed Media. A lot of you people, I think, are music people, so that's really cool. So let Ben know what you like, what you want him to cover, and if you would disagree with any of his hot takes on different composers. So yeah, with that, I guess we're good. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.